Today we have a very special guest. He's a fellow Alabamian, writer, director, actor, creator of the film 3 Days Dead and the former SyFy Channel show Town of the Living Dead. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend John M Ware.
What's up, Kenny? How you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm great. How glad to have you on, bud. We've been going back and forth for a while. It's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Pleasure to be here.
Uh let's get it rolling right off the top, man. Being a filmmaker in Alabama has to be difficult. What can you tell us about the production of the film and the show and the difficulties you faced?
Well, oddly enough, at the time we were filming, most cities in Alabama don't require a filming permit, so you don't have to worry about that. And we were in Walker County, so we had guns everywhere at all times, and we got hassled by the police a few times, but most of the time it was like, oh, you're just the zombie guys. Um, Feeling, the way things are today, I probably couldn't get away with half the stuff I got away with, you know, years ago when we were filming the movie. So, um, the biggest pushback, I guess, came from, we had some city council members that weren't too happy about what we were doing, and they could find any excuse they could find to gripe and complain. But for the most part, the process was pretty simple, pretty easy and hassle free as far as the community goes.
That's weird. You would think the city would get behind it, like it would be kind of bringing attention to them, like it could possibly even be a tourist thing later on down the road or something, like that's crazy that councilmen like opposed it.
I mean, it's a very, I guess you'd say, closed-minded community. If it had been like country music or gospel music or something, I think would have been accepted more. But we were making movies about dead people getting up and walking around, so it wasn't in their wheelhouse, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there, buddy. How did you secure financing for the film?
Well, our initial budget was $25,000, and it wasn't necessarily like, okay, I've got $25,000 that I need to get. It was over the course of time we figured up that we had spent $25,000, and it all came. Our producer, Thr33, she was the one that provided the money. She was initially just going to play a small part in the film, and before it was over with, she was bankrolling the whole thing.
That's awesome, man.
Now we get donations here and there, but for the most part, like I said, the $25,000 came directly from her.
That's cool. Wow, she deserves all the credit in the world for that, man. Uh, so, like, did Jasper itself? I mean, was anybody enthusiastic about it, or like, did you have any help from the city, or?
I mean, business owners. We had a lot of business owners that were on board. Our main location for a lot of the film was a stock room in a men's store that had been open for like 80 years or better. Um, Bernard's Store for Men downtown Jasper. If you're ever in Jasper, you should check them out. But the owner just basically gave us the run of the stock room. He would tell his patrons we filmed while they were open. He would tell his patrons, if you hear any screaming or anything coming from upstairs, they're just filming a movie. It's okay.
Oh, that's great, dude. Uh, what can you tell us about your writing process? What inspired the film, and what made you decide on making a zombie flick?
Well, I guess that's a two-part answer. I had been kicking around the idea of a film and what I needed to do for a while, and I had a conversation with another local filmmaker, Chance Shirley. They had made the film Hide and Creep, and they'd actually shot a scene in Jasper at the time. And he said, if you're gonna make a film, make a zombie film, and make it as cheaply as you possibly can. And my other buddy, who ended up, being my writing partner that dropped out eventually, said, "Hey, we need to make a zombie movie." So I kind of took that as like confirmation, I suppose. And then the initial idea of the story came from, um, I'd heard this. It's an urban legend. I don't know if it's true or not, and if it is, then you know it sucks. But apparently, at some point, somebody, a dentist or somebody, had died, right? And at their funeral, they they wanted all their jewelry on them. So there were some people in the crowd at the funeral that were like, "Oh wow, he's loaded. We're gonna go back in a few days and dig him up and steal all the jewelry." Which obviously they didn't bury the guy with the jewelry, but the again, it may be an urban legend, it may be true, I don't know, but I've heard it several times from several different people. I don't want to, tick anybody off if there's some relatives of these people, but apparently the guy, they dug him up and the body exploded and it made him really sick, and that's how they ended up getting caught, because apparently the sickness caused by death is unlike anything else. And I thought to myself, that would be an interesting opening to a zombie movie. And so me and my buddies, we sat down and wrote for 3 months, just kind of bouncing ideas off of one another, what would happen in certain situations. So I guess in a way it's a situational comedy.
That's awesome, dude. I actually like hearing that. Let's switch gears for a minute and talk about your brief show on the SyFy Network, Town of the Living Dead. I know that you kind of felt betrayed and used by the network. How did that whole thing pan out?
Man, how it came about. I had I got a phone call one day. I'd been in the hospital. I had just had a mini stroke, and this was probably 2013. I'd had a mini stroke, and the day after I got out of the hospital, I get a phone call from a production company in Atlanta that did reality TV. And they're like, "We've heard about your story. We've heard about your movie. How would you like to turn it into a reality show?" I said, "That sounds really cool. Let me get you in touch with my producer and we'll figure something out." So it took us a full year to get the green light and to start filming. Um, and then, I don't know if betrayed would be the proper way to describe it. There was some advantages, some liberties taken that, I didn't realize until it was over with. The worst part of the whole situation was the time slot that they put us in. And I
Right.
know I've gotten some flack from some people for complaining about having a reality show, but the time slot could have been better. The time slot, we were up against Sons of Anarchy directly
Yeah, that's tough to
in
compete.
their final season. So it's like nobody's going to watch this because Sons of Anarchy's on, and I have yet to watch a single episode because I have this chip on my shoulder against Sons of Anarchy. But I guess more so against them and FX than I would against Sci-Fi, because at the end of the day, they did help. Again, there were things that they did that I wasn't too happy about, but at the end of the day, they did help. They gave me exposure. They actually put a version of the movie out, which would have never been out had they not stepped in and decided to pay us a little visit. So I owe them, my gratitude as far as that goes, but I still wish that we'd have been in a different time slot, that they would have treated us just a little differently. Um, I feel at times they made us look incompetent, but I guess that's the whole point of telling an underdog story that they, swore up and down that they were trying to do. Um, but yeah, it's a mixed bag, I guess. It's gratitude and a little bit of anger over certain things.
That's cool. I'm glad we were able to like clear the air on that a little bit. It's good. I mean, you still got exposure out of it, and I'm really interested in the show. I've not yet got to see it. Uh, it looks like a lot of fun, man. What can you tell us about Town of Living Dead?
Um, Again, it was a fun experience. I both loved it and hated it at the same time. There were long 16-hour days that we would shoot. Of course, they were union, so we had to take certain breaks that we, as the movie, didn't ever have to take because we weren't union at the time. Not that we're union now either, but um, not to say that I would never be, and would take them up on their offer if they offered a membership. But um, the process of learning about reality television was definitely interesting. I don't watch reality TV the same way anymore. And when I say reality TV, I mean like I watch a lot of Counting Cars and Pawn Stars and that kind of thing. So I know what's going on right on the other side of them. You know what I mean? And it's very interesting once you've been through it, once you've done it, to know what's going on behind the camera.
That's
And
cool.
and it's literally, I mean, it can be literally 3 to 5 feet away from them while they're talking. You know what I mean?
Right. What can you tell us about the sequel to 3 Days Dead? You know, we're supporting the hell out of you, trying to bring more attention your way. I'd love to see it made with a bigger budget this time, you know, and like, you know, kind of see it pop off a little better and, you know, get a little more production values and things of that nature. What would you like to do with that?
Man, I tell you what, I need funding for the sequel. I could probably do it really well for 250,000. It's written, it's in the can as far as writing goes. It's unlike anything that anybody's ever seen as far as zombie movies or zombie shows or whatever is concerned. There's a complete spin on the whole thing, and it would turn the genre on its head. But the hard part would be getting people to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's always the difficulty, man. And you know we got your back. We're gonna try to keep you out there as much as we can. Uh, let's talk about casting. I read somewhere that you had some difficulties in this area on your, you know, first feature.
Casting, man, we went through three different casts, three lead casts. Um, we weren't paying anybody at the time, so I understand things could get difficult. Some people were traveling from Birmingham to Jasper on the days that we were filming, and for the first little bit, we were only filming 1 day a week because we all had full-time jobs and we were having to squeeze everything in, and it just kept dragging on and on and on, and so obviously, tensions would rise and people would storm out or people would say things they shouldn't have said, and that me included, but I couldn't leave the project because I was the initiator. But so we went through three casts. We had the final cast in the film. We had to shut down production because the lead female had gotten pregnant, and she was the producer's daughter, which has no bearing on whether she got the part or not. She knew the material better than anybody at that point because we'd already been through three other lead females, and she wanted to audition, but she wasn't old enough. And then she turned 18, and um, her mother finally said she was old enough, so she stepped right in and took up the part and did a really great job as far as I'm concerned. Um, like I said, just the time and the stress, and I can understand why some people weren't able to finish it out. Um, and I still thanked every one of them in the credits. So and there's no hard feelings between, as far as I'm concerned, on toward anybody that had to step away or was forced to step away in any capacity.
See, I was actually in prison when you made this movie. My brothers had known about it before I did. They were actually wanting to be zombies in the film. They were wanting to come down there and participate, but I guess they weren't able to make it for some reason. I just thought that was kind of a cool, like how it all ties together thing, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
man. We had so many people from all over the place that came to be zombies. Lots of people brought their kids because we were doing it during the summer, and I wanted to give kids and young people something to do. So why not? Put them in makeup and cover them in blood and stick them out there in the field somewhere and let them act like fools for a little bit in front of the camera.
dude, yeah, that's fun. That makes me think of like the filming of Dawn of the Dead, you know, the redneck scenes in the original Dawn of the Dead, like all the just random people out there shooting zombies and just having a good time, and it just kind of reminiscent of that.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted everybody to have a good time, and I didn't never want any like stress or you know anything like that. At the end of the day, I wanted everybody to have a good time. I also wanted to produce a film, which there was, there was business involved and business that had to be conducted and whatnot. But for the most part, I just wanted everybody to have a good time.
That's what it's all about, man. Uh, I hope this isn't too personal, but you've already gone into it a little bit. I know you had a pretty serious health scare. How has your stroke affected your outlook and aims on life?
I mean, it could have been worse. I didn't lose anything major. There's sometimes when I talk a little slower, but other than that, nobody really notices because I'm from Walker County. Um, but other than that, there's not really been that much adverse effects from it.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to see you carrying on and keep trucking. Can you let us in on some of your plans for the future?
Well, like I said, I've got the sequel written, and I very much like to get it produced. I've also got a prequel that's about 75% of the way written, and I'm working on a crime drama based on crime and corruption in a small southern town. Um, it's
Sounds
kind of like do what?
sounds like my life. Go ahead, my bad.
It's kind of like it's kind of like Twin Peaks meets some old film noir detective movie. I want to shoot it not necessarily in black and white, but in a high contrast style that reminds people of the old detective movies back in the day. And
Dude,
then and then there's a lot of funny elements which would lend to the whole Twin Peaks thing.
that sounds like a lot of fun, man. I'm definitely interested in that. Uh, did you grow up as a fan of the genre? And if so, what were some of your favorite horror flicks?
Um, Horror movies, yes. Zombie movies, not so much. I always, if you get to watch the show, Robert Englund was on the show, so I got to meet Freddy Krueger, and I always, Nightmare on Elm Street was always one of my favorite um, series, along with Friday the 13th. I guess everybody can say that. But one of my other favorite series that nobody really talks about outside of the mutant family community is Phantasm. I loved those movies as a teenager, watching those, and Don Coscarelli, what he did for independent film is just, you can't you can't pay him back for that. Um, we followed similar paths. I read some of his biography about when he made Phantasm, how we're following some similar paths, I guess. Him and his buddies just wanted to make a film, and one thing led to another, and he ended up making, five of his, or is it six? It's either five or six. I can't quite remember. I think it's five. Oblivion was the last one. Um, Not Oblivion. What was the last Phantasm movie? I forget.
Dude, I don't know. I've lost track.
Oh, well, there's five. I think there's five. But I love all of them. I love all of them. Even the one that didn't have the same kid in it. Um, but just Halloween also. Halloween was my favorite growing up. My absolute favorite. If I have to pick favorite movies, The Crow is my absolute all-time favorite movie, period. And then Halloween would be my favorite horror movie. Um, Again, just like everybody else, I'm sure.
Wow, you answered a couple of more of my questions right there just then. Who are some of John M Ware's biggest influences?
Obviously George Romero. I like Quentin Tarantino a lot, and these sound like typical answers, I know, but um, hmm, John Carpenter, obviously,
Definitely.
and then uh, Robert Rodriguez, as far as what he did for independent filmmakers and how he put it out there that you can make a movie for almost nothing, as long as you have dedicated people and talent and drive, you can do almost anything. Um, I guess that would be my top ones, you know.
Dude, I
But
can't. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
no,
you off.
no, go ahead. Go
I,
ahead.
I can't give enough praise to Robert Rodriguez, man. He's Robert Rodriguez is just like, you know, he's a hero of mine for real. Uh, you said, Halloween was your all-time favorite movie?
Halloween's my all-time favorite horror movie.
Oh, okay. What's
Um,
your all-time favorite movie then?
the Crow,
The Crow. Okay.
1994 with Brandon Lee.
All right. Well, what advice can you give to aspiring filmmakers?
Find a director of photography that will take direction. If you can't find a director of photography that'll take direction, learn to use the camera yourself.
Huh.
um, learn to edit. Editing is important. Um, my favorite part of filmmaking is editing, because at that point you get to create in the computer or whatever. I guess if you're still editing on film, you're actually splicing it together by hand. But um, when you edit, man, you get to create the world that you intended to create, I guess.
Dude,
And editing is more important than anything. Now, obviously, if you don't have a picture, you can't edit it. But without editing, it's just a bunch of crap that you've got stored in your computer.
that's actually pretty profound, man. You have any interesting or funny stories from the film or show?
The time I nearly got scalped, I guess.
What?
Yeah, my character. Well, I had to have a full face uh, latex mask at one point, and we didn't make a mold. We just decided to put the latex prosthetics directly on my face and hair. We couldn't find a bald cap in time, so I had the bright idea. Let's just get a bunch of wig caps and put on, and see what happens. Well, what happens is what had happened was um, the liquid latex had seeped out of the through the wig caps that I had on, and I had on like three or four, but my dumb ass thought that it would be okay. Well, it soaked right through and attached itself to my hair, and I could not get the shit out. I had to end up calling the makeup company, and the guy laughed at me. He's like, "You did what?" I said, "Yeah, you heard me right. I got it in my hair, all over my head, and it won't come out." And he's like, "Well, let me see what I can come up with, and I will call you back." And I heard him laughing the whole time. And it was dumbassery on my part, but he called me back in about 30 or 45 minutes and said, "Baby oil. You have to use baby oil, and it will break down the latex since it's oil based." And I was like, "Okay." And so I finally tried that, and I looked like a greased chicken. I swear.
That is awesome, dude. Uh, all right, you've already had your film shown during one mutant marathon, but we wanted to remind the folks at home that we'll be showing again next Friday night when the mutant marathon will be centered around zombies. So just let everybody know that next week we'll be doing a mutant marathon focused about zombies, and we'll be showing John's film 3 Days Dead, amongst many, 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 many other things. Any shout outs you'd like to give, John?
Man, my star Brian Boylan, he interacts with us on Twitter some. My brother Gary Carricker, he's on Twitter. Chase Lawrence, my comedy relief in the film. Tina, my producer, her daughter Katie, who played Valerie. I could go on, man. Like I can't. Todd, the guy that played Dad, a really awesome job. All the musicians, we had so much music that was just given to us to use in the film and in the director's cut. And the music's different from the director's cut to the network cut because I had so many more, independent artists that were like, "Here, please use my music." You know, um, friends of friends and cousins and all kinds of people that were like sending me music. Um, of course, everybody in the Mutant family. I could go on. I feel like I'm giving an Oscar speech here. Um, I'd like to thank God, my mama, and
That's
all
awesome.
all the little people.
Dude, that's great. Yeah, I was gonna ask if anything like to say to the fans and the audience.
Man, some of our fans, dude, have a lot of them have stuck with us from like the first day that they heard about it, and they were so excited to see something that was filmed locally. And I appreciate all of them. And there's still, we've got a Facebook page over at facebook.com/3days, Thr33 Days. You have to spell it right or it won't put it in.
Yeah.
Um, and I was going to be clever with that. I thought everybody will know what that says, but some people just never could get it. And I have people to this day that's like, your movie 33 Days Dead. And I'm like, it's it's like a tag, it's like a personalized tag. How people spell words out with letters or numbers on personalized tags, and then they're like, oh, I get it, I understand now. But I don't know why 3 has become such an important part of everything I do recently. It just seems to pop up everywhere now.
That's awesome. All right. Well, John, I appreciate you coming on, man. We're looking forward to having you possibly come do a live stream with us in the future. Maybe bring some, stuff from the films and the show. Have you on again. Uh, Help get you out there to the people some more, man. I appreciate you having you on. Everybody check out 3 Days Dead coming up on the next week's Friday night Mutant Marathon. This is Kenny from Channel Living Dead. John M Ware. Care to tell the folks goodbye?
Hey man, thank y'all for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I hope to come back on some more. And then remember to tune in next week on March 6th. I think Frank said it was at midnight that it would kick off, and that I'd be up first. And hope everybody watches and hope everybody likes it. And as long as y'all support me, I'll be doing something, I guess.
Dude, we're glad to have you, buddy. All right, we'll see you later, John.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you.